Good morning, everyone. It's your girls from Obscure Oration, me, Taylor, with my co host and wonderful person, Dana Joanne. Because anytime that you get any information from us and it says Joanne attached to it, I swear it is Dana, I promise.
It's me.
It's just her middle name is what she uses instead. And for the longest time, I didn't even know that your name was Joanne. So when people used to call you that, I was like, who the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about Dana over there. And they're like, so are we. So with us today, we have a special guest that I was super excited to get on the moment that you commented on that thread where we asked for a guest, and you're like, haunted wedding venue. Yeah, I want her. I was pretty sure I told Dana, I was like, I swear to God, I will walk off of this podcast right now if we don't get her. So this is the wonderful Rebecca, and I shall let you introduce yourself now.
Sure. I'm Rebecca Williamson, and I am the owner of Cambria House and Farm. I own a haunted wedding venue. So,
Woo! Now, where are you located?
I'm located just outside of Nauvoo, Illinois. So, if you're not familiar with Nauvoo, which
Nope.
it's one of those, either you are or you're not. And Nauvoo is west central Illinois. So right on the Mississippi River. Illinois kind of has like a little bit of a nose that bumps out, and we're right on the nose of Illinois. Nauvoo is actually kind of well known if you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is where Joseph Smith had his village. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
That I've heard.
so
That I've heard.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I've heard it before. Didn't know that's where it was, but I've heard of it before.
Right, exactly. Like it's one of those like, oh, okay, well, kind of, but yeah, we're a little dinky town out here in Illinois, and yeah, so my home is just 3 miles north of town and out in the middle of nowhere.
Perfect.
Yep.
Oh, nosy neighbors coming by going, what are you doing? Do you need sugar? We just want to see what you're doing over here.
Well, both Taylor and I are located in tiny towns too, so we get that.
Yep.
Location-wise, we are in Canada on the border of Michigan. We're in Windsor. Tiny towns outside of Windsor, but Windsor, Detroit is our connector. So we're actually not far, like totally road trippable.
I love that. Totally road trippable. Where are you going? We're going to a haunted wedding venue. Bye, guys.
Gonna get married again. So how do you okay, let's talk paranormal. I'm a big believer. I believe my house is haunted. I've had
1,000,000%.
paranormal investigators tell me my house is haunted, so
yeah,
I need to hear all the dirt on this haunted wedding venue.
So the house was built in 1867 by French immigrants to Illinois. The home was it was a working apple orchard and farm, which is like a Cambria House and Farm. It was a working apple orchard from the 1850s until around the 1940s. And the Cambry family themselves lived in the home until 1979. So there were 4 generations of Cambrys that lived and grew up and passed away in the home. And then
that's about right.
Yep.
Ghosts.
And then in 1979, my grandparents bought the farm. My grandmother loved history and antiques, and so the farm was kind of an extension of both of those things. She had come here as a little girl to pick apples and loved the home out there at that time. And so when it went up for sale, she said she wanted to go see it and buy it. And she dragged my grandfather out there, and he fell in love with the farm as well. And so they bought the home with the intention of preserving the history, but never intending to live there. And yep.
That's pretty wild.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So they filled it with the antiques, and they treated it kind of like a life-size dollhouse where, you know, all the rooms were organized just so. And we spent a lot of time out there as kids going and, you know, having outdoor events with my family and friends, and they did craft shows and different things. And then after they passed away, I bought the farm with the intention of like keeping their legacy going and helping to preserve the history. Like I had a lot of fond memories of being out there myself. And so
Of course.
what I wanted to do was like keep those memories alive for myself and then like, just keep the farm going.
Mhm.
So um, everybody always kind of wants to know, like, when did you realize this thing was haunted? And I didn't really realize that it was haunted when I bought it until I spent the night there. Like,
Oh,
growing up as kids, if it was dark, we always just went home to my grandparents' house. We didn't really spend the night at the farm. And
Oh, okay.
so after I bought it, I spent the night there. And that first night, my daughter had come with me and she was 8 and she was just like flat out refused to sleep in this house. I mean, she was just, the lines were drawn and she did not want to sleep here. She was furious. I was forcing her to sleep in this house. Why would you do this to me?
Such a cruel mom. What the hell?
I think all kids are like that when they're 8. Mine were the same way. Can't we move? The house is haunted. Child, we built this house. We're staying.
The whole angsty 8-year-old, you're gonna make me do what?
And it's like, unless you come up with all of the money to pay for all of these things, you're gonna be sleeping in this house and you're gonna enjoy it.
Right?
Exactly. Like I'm not. Yeah. This is it. We're staying here, and so we compromised this night and said, okay, well, she refused any of the bedrooms. The bedrooms were a no-go for her, period. But she compromised in that she was willing to sleep in the living room. So we luckily had an air mattress with us, and so she slept on an air mattress in the middle of the living room floor with me because she would not sleep by herself. Flat out no. Um, I'm sleeping on a twin size air mattress in the middle of the living room with an 8-year-old glued to my side, which I will tell you does not make for a restful night's sleep.
Nope.
Yes.
I get that 100%.
You have kids, you've been there, done that. Yes, this is the things you do. Anyway, my sister had come with me this weekend to work on some projects. We were trying to get some things done out there. And she brought a puppy with her. The puppy was still pretty young and still needed to go outside in the middle of the night. And so my sister slept upstairs in one of the bedrooms in a bed because, there were bedrooms and beds. And
Magic.
Who would want to sleep on those instead? It's so much better.
I know. So she's upstairs with the puppy, but in the middle of the night, the puppy does have to go outside. So she walks down the stairs, walks out the front door, and in doing so, she's walking like a foot away from my head. But I kept my eyes closed because I don't want to get that puppy too excited and I don't want to wake up the kid, and we don't want chaos.
Understand that completely.
Yes. So anyway, 3 times in the middle of the night, they woke me up by walking right beside me and going out the front door and then coming back in. The next morning, I did your puppy did great. You only went outside 3 times. And she said, no, my puppy did amazing. We only went outside twice last night. And I said, no, you went outside 3 times. I heard you. I know. We argued. She really did only go outside twice. I really did hear an extra time that was not her of walking down the stairs, going outside and coming back in.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah,
That's that moment where you're like,
no,
you did it. You did it 3 times. You lie to me and you say you did it 3 times.
yeah.
Even if it's not the truth, you don't have to tell me.
Yes, exactly. Like we argued, and yeah, there was an extra set. And so then it was kind of like, oh, and yeah, my kid was too freaked out to sleep in any of these rooms. And there was a lot of that kind of stuff that was going on. And it was like, well, maybe we should, do some investigating here and try to see, what's going on. And so I had a friend who was starting a paranormal team around that time. And so I reached out to see if he wanted to come and do an investigation. I kind of wanted an impartial type of investigation. So, because I have a lot of connection to this home and, you know, like they bought it when I was a kid. And so I've had it in my life, basically my entire life. And so I wanted an impartial third party. And, we started kind of trying to think back, like, you know, were we having paranormal activity before? So Cambry has a lot of stories about doors. And
yep.
So the basement door opened often enough when we were kids that they made us grandkids stand by the basement door to try and keep it shut if we were having a good size event out there. It was one of those things where like it always popped open. Go stand by that door, make sure it stays shut. They told us it was an old house. Old houses have doors that open all the time, right?
Oh God, I heard that so many times.
Yep.
It's an old house. Like, it's an old house. It'll creak. We built the house in 2021 or 2001. It's not old. It's not supposed to creak.
I never, anytime that I hear those excuses where they're like, oh yeah, the doors just pop open. I'm like, you do realize that they have these funny little things where there's like a hole and the part goes into it and it latches and stays closed unless you turn the handle. And people then look at you and they're like, no, you just don't understand. Like, I understand the basics. I don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that when you go like this and it's holding on to it, it's not going to pop open. It shouldn't pop open.
It should not pop open. And like coming back at this like later from like a paranormal adult standpoint, you know, where you're like, okay, let's try and make this work. You know, okay, if it's a draft, I should be able to reproduce that. Yep. And I have never been able to reproduce that door opening. Like opening umpteen doors and, you know, trying to do that sort of, you know, drafty thing. I've never been able to make that basement door open. And yet it's opened enough that I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen that door open. It still happens today. You know, that basement door will still open on its own. That door. The upstairs attic door has opened on its own a lot. When we were kids, they always said it was one of us kids that opened it. And I can tell you I didn't open it, but I got blamed for it a lot.
Yep, blame the children. When in doubt, blame the children.
I was going to say, it's such a...
Kids must have opened it.
Exactly. Yeah. You're like, you're an adult. That seems to be the go-to thing when you're an adult. You're just like, those damn kids are at it again. The kids are sitting in a different room going, I'm being good. This one time, I'm being good. And you're like, stop playing with the doors.
Yes, exactly. You know, the other odd thing about the attic door is that it's weighted to swing shut. So the way they made that door, if you push it open, it swings shut. So there really is no way that door should be opening on its own. Like, yeah.
Did it stay open?
Yes, it would stay open.
See, that makes it all the more freaky because when you say it's weighted to swing shut and it doesn't, it stays open, you're like, what the hell is going on?
I was going to say, that would be like sitting there going, oh, here, this is supposed to stay up like this, but for some reason it just keeps on doing this the entire time. It's like, okay, well, it's weighted. It's supposed to swing back.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, yeah, like these things all happened when we were kids. But again, it's an old house. Things like this happen, you know, and then now an adult, especially with like some paranormal investigator, you know, background, coming back at these type of things and going, no, that is not, you know, normal. That is paranormal. So we had the very first investigation with my friend who started his paranormal group, and it was amazing. That was one of those, like, beyond, at that point, we had no doubt that we were having paranormal activity. So that investigation, like, I'm giving him the tour, and, you know, this is the living room, this is the dining room, one of those kind of things. And it had been April. It was cold. It was a drizzly, cold day. And
of course.
Yes, I'm wearing my winter coat inside the house and just shivering because it is so cold. And the whole time I'm giving this to her, all I can think about is I must need a new furnace. Like, obviously, I need a new furnace in this house. How, here I've bought this house, now it's going to need a new furnace. That's all that's going around in my head. Because I'm so cold, I'm shivering with a winter jacket on inside. And finish this tour, and he pulls out the digital thermometer because I am seriously concerned. And my thermostat is set at 60 degrees. He pulls out the digital thermometer. It's 58 in the house. So immediate relief, because obviously the furnace is working. This isn't as terrible as I was expecting. However, I'm still wearing my winter jacket and shivering. And so we're like, okay, so what's going on? Why is Becca so cold in this house? So the outside temperature was 43 degrees. So, I mean, it was chilly outside.
Yep.
But so they took the digital thermometer and they're checking around me to try and figure out why I'm shivering. Behind me, from about my waist down, the temperature was registering 20 degrees.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
They just like, oh!
Yes. I wish I could recreate that in July.
No kidding. That moment where you're walking around to the ghost and you're like, for the love of God, please hug me.
Why not? Why are you not making me cold now?
Or when you're having a hot flash because of menopause. If we could bottle that and sell it, we'd make billions.
That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Like, why can you not run around behind me in the middle of August?
Yes.
That would be preferable, but
like, not during the cold months.
Yes, but anyway, yeah, that spot, we were able to register for about an hour and a half. It was solid. It stayed either behind me or beside me for that whole time I was there for the investigation. We were able to confirm through investigation that was Eglantine Cambry. Eglantine passed away on the property in 1864 at the age of 9 from a childhood illness, and she is buried on the property in an unmarked grave. The family knew where she was buried at. However, that information has been lost in time and we don't know anymore. And so Eglantine is super active at the house. That investigation that night was, just like the catalyst of like, okay, before it had been, maybe we've got something going on. And then after that point, it was like, yeah, we have something going on.
Yeah, that's that moment of going, yep, that's it. They're right here. And if you're unfortunate and it's cold outside, they're going to hug your leg and go, oh, it's cold. I know it's cold. Please stop touching me.
So, apart from the young girl passing away in the house, do you know if anybody else died within the walls of
property?
Yes.
Not so much the property, because they could die on the land and still not haunt the house. I'm like on the inside of the house.
I would say, yeah, but a lot of times they do come into it. That's one of the things that a lot of people miss out on, is that they think where they die is where they stay. It's like, no, they like to travel because they attach to items.
They do.
When you get antiques,
they're attached to items and they're attached to location. So I'm really lucky in that there's a lot of really well documented history for the farm. I have the whole genealogy of all the Cambrys that lived in the home. That was written by the son, Fritz. So Adolph and Hortense built the house, and then after they passed away, 2 of their children, Fritz and Anita, took over running the farm. Fritz and Anita never were married or had children of their own, but Fritz wrote my genealogy. So I have like really detailed records of the farm.
That's awesome.
Yes. So Adolph and Hortense passed away in the home of natural causes. Anita as well passed away in the home of natural causes. And Eglantine actually passed away on the property before they finished construction on the home. But I think she just moved along with her family into the house.
Right.
So
yeah.
When we've done investigations, like this is her home and she's happy here. And Cambry's just a happy home. It's not like we have axe murderers or anything like that.
I
but
feel like
it's
there's
just
no murder here, I promise.
they enjoyed it while they were alive, and they enjoy it still now. So Eglantine is like our most active spirit, but our next most active spirit is Fritz himself. Fritz loved the farm out there. He took excellent care of it. When he was alive, they said that my farm looked like a park. It was manicured, lawns, large gardens, and then this huge apple orchard that he took care of. So when his sister Anita passed away, Fritz decided he was going to retire, and he sold the farm to his nephew Robert. Now, Robert is not a farmer, he's a Presbyterian minister. And he's not farming. In fact, the entire time he owned the property, he never mowed the backyard at all, ever.
Oh my goodness.
Wild jungle back there.
Yes, wild jungle back there. He didn't do that. He barely mowed a strip along the lane to get to the house. And the grandson that mowed for him, his grandson, said that he mowed a little less strip as the summer went along because they were push mowing my large yard.
Yeah.
And he's like, he just mowed less and less as the summer went on. Fritz wasn't happy with this. Fritz wrote a lot of letters to relatives around this time complaining about, Robert's not taking care of the place. It doesn't look like 5 cents now. Just upset with the care. Again, different management styles, farmer versus non-farmer. Anyway, when Fritz gets out to California, he's visiting some nephews out there, and he finds out that he has a terminal illness, and so he commits suicide in California.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Fritz, I can tell you exactly which bedroom Fritz's is in the house, because that room is the one Amelia will never sleep in. My daughter.
She's like, hard no.
No. And I operate this as a wedding venue now, and my wedding couples can stay overnight in the house. And
that's awesome.
So nice.
Yeah, it's a cute little 3-bedroom house, and I keep it kind of like my grandparents did with antiques and stuff like that. But anyway, the wedding couples can stay in the house, but I never have anybody sleep in Fritz's room. Like, they have the whole house. But Fritz's room is very, very rarely slept in. Just his room.
I would say, I just get the mental image of him literally standing over the people that are sleeping in the bedroom. No.
Well, I imagine that if anybody was brave enough to hunker down in his bed, he'd probably make their night a living hell.
Yeah.
He seems like he's a very possessive spirit of his space, which would be his room.
I would say the comparison that comes to mind is Sheldon.
Yes.
From Big Bang.
Exactly.
I mean, he's just particular about everything. Like, the whole farm, he and my mother do not get along. My mother is alive.
I like that quick out. Oh, wait, my mom's alive. Don't worry.
Yeah, mom's alive. My mom is helpful. Yes. So she comes over to clean, and she'll decide my furniture needs rearranged, and so she'll rearrange the furniture. She decided my curtains didn't match, so she took them all down and threw them away. But she made new curtains. She made me new curtains. She hung them up. Now I have all matching curtains in the house. And I mean, this is kind of like I said, she's helpful. I kind of just let her roll with it. I got new curtains out of the deal. I mean, it's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Yeah. But I mean, Fritz gets very irritated. The day we realized that this was a big issue, she was there cleaning. I think this was the day that she decided she didn't like my throw pillows in the house and threw them away. Again, like I said, helpful.
I love it.
So she takes stuff out to her vehicle that's in the driveway. When she turned around to come back, the front door was slammed and locked. And she was then locked out of the house.
I need a Fritz.
Oh my God, that's just fantastic.
Yeah,
I said leave those pillows. I like, nope,
you're done here. And she gonna do now.
Crazy.
Oh.
I bought the house. It was the lock that my grandfather put on in the 80s. My aunts and uncles and cousins, we all had keys, but I was okay with that because they were all helping me. And all of a sudden, my cousin's key quit working. She was cleaning for me and her key quit. She couldn't get in the house. My mother's key quit. My sister's key quit. And finally, my key was the only key that was going to unlock the front door and let me in. So I said, we got to get on this. We got to change this lock. So I changed the lock and then start having the same issues. My mom's key doesn't open the door. My sister's key will work sometimes, but not very often. And yeah, my key will open the door every time. So we're still having, same issues with keys. And yeah, mom gets locked out on a regular basis. And like the last time I'm like, oh, mom, can you let somebody in for me? She said, I don't think this is going to work. You know how this goes for me. And I said, no, it'll be fine. I had to leave work at like 7 a.m. and these people were showing up at 9. And like, I'll just run by in the morning. I'll unlock the doors, flip the lights. All you have to do is open the door. That's just be there, open the door for these people. It'll be fine.
Famous last words. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, right. Anyway, I swing by at 7 o'clock. I unlock everything, flip on the lights. She shows up at 9 o'clock to a locked door. She can't get in again.
That's
just like, I'm not letting her in. Have you not gotten the message yet? I don't like her.
Yeah, no, she should not be in the house by herself. What are you doing?
She needs to be supervised, is what he's saying.
Stop throwing things away.
Right. But the flip side of this story is that anytime I've needed a service person to come out there and do work, they've always found the house unlocked. One day, like the furnace guy told me he was coming at 1 o'clock. So I left at noon, locked the front door, go out for lunch, come back at 12:30. My furnace guy is walking out the front door of the house. He said he got there early. The door was unlocked. So he just went on in there and took care of it. He's all done now. Like, okay.
Yeah, that moment where you're like, I meant to do that.
No, it honestly, it makes sense.
Well, she's taking care. She's the good caretaker. Like, you're literally taking care of the house like he wants.
And anything that any person that you're bringing in that is going to improve the quality of the house to keep the house standing, obviously Fritz is quite welcoming to. But I think seeing your mom just tossing stuff out, he's like, whoa, calm yourself, lady.
Yeah. Her mom coming in and like rearranging furniture or something is like, whoa, what are you doing? What? We need to be consulted here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm willing to bet that she's one of those people who haven't learned the lesson yet to walk in and be like, okay, Fritz, listen, I need to do some stuff around the house. I don't like these throw pillows. I'm going to throw them out and I'm going to replace them with new ones. Okay? And make an arrangement with them. Like, a lot of spirits are extremely understanding, where you can just be like, okay, I'm coming in, especially in his case, because he cared so much about the home. And he sees you as, like I said, being the good caretaker. You're taking care of it properly. And then she comes in and she's, not that she's not taking care of it, she is, but she's doing it in a frantic way.
Yes. Like I said, mom is very helpful. I mean, I'm not going to knock her helpfulness because like she wanted my curtains to match. She tries to get the furniture arranged just so. I mean, it is helpful in my mother's own special helpful mom way. And
I think it's a mother thing. I swear to God, it's a mother thing. They come in, they're like, these things don't match. You're like, oh, I'm fine with it. Oh, you're throwing it out. Oh, okay. Oh, you came prepared with new ones. How long have you been planning this?
Yes, exactly. Like, oh, I don't like any of your furniture in here. We're going to take this out and give you new. And it's like,
okay, so now I have to ask because curiosity kills the cat, right?
And satisfaction brings it back.
Have you had a seance or played with a Ouija board in that house?
We've had a couple seances, not on the Ouija board, but we did have a couple seances. I had some people that I trust they're witches and do the seancey thing. And so those are ones that I trusted, and they did do a seance. It was interesting in that they were able to confirm a lot of stuff. And there was stuff that they found through the seance that I didn't know about that I was able to find and confirm. So it was interesting.
Nice, nice.
See, and I was saying I love that stuff because we now live in a time where technology is catching up to magic, is how I like to say it, just because
Right.
it's
Exactly.
things that, like, even before. So I've told Dana this before. I don't normally admit that I talk to dead things because most people aren't comfortable with that fact. Now, I don't do it often, but I do. I was trained by a sister witch of mine who was like, okay, here's a picture. What do you see in it? And you can actually see them when you practice. You can actually see the
Yes.
spirits in the different areas. I was able
Yes.
to do it without, like, Dana lived and grew up in a haunted house and now lives in a haunted house. So she just goes everywhere haunted, whether she
I
needs
think
to or
they
not.
follow me.
But I
Right.
was able, it was one of those things that I described the old woman that lived in her house at the time. And she's like, I haven't even told you yet. She's like, all I said was that there's a ghost in that house. And I was like, yeah, in that picture that you sent, there's a little old lady there, like, looking out, not mean or anything. She's just literally watching the neighborhood. She's like, and I described her after that. She's like, that was her. And even when you first started talking about where the cold spot was, I was like, oh, it's like a little girl, I thought around 8-ish, that was
Mhm.
just like clinging to you because she was just like a motherly figure for you
Yes.
watching, where it's like, okay, she watched you with your daughter on the blow up mattress and then was just like attached to you after that, where it's like, okay, wanted to see what you were doing, and then kind of just that weird shy kid thing. So when you said it, I'm like, oh, I still can see it.
Yes. I mean, like the whole, like, there's strangers in my house. Let's go hide
Mhm.
behind my mom, and
Exactly.
I
And that
found
was
that
exactly it.
if I have a mother figure there, Eglantine seems to be drawn into
Mhm.
her a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I was saying that's the feeling that I get. Like, I see this short. I mean, I'm not good with kids and heights and ages because I'm I don't have any of my own kids. I just kind of look at them like they're a child. That's I've gotten their child. But she has like that little short kind of cropped hair and was just doing that thing that kids do where they like cling on to the mom. And in this case, not fun when you're freezing to death and you're like, okay, the clinging's fine. I can't feel my leg anymore, but the clinging's fine, I swear. But to be able to now have things in technology, because we have the ability to see and hear frequencies that we've never been able to hear outside of practicing. Or it's like,
Right.
okay, everyone's always like, none of that's real. It's like, you do realize that everything that's scientifically proven now was magic before. That
Mhm.
is how life works. Every single thing was magic before, but now we can go, here we go. Hey, if we play with energy, we can actually, can shift things around. We can do stuff. We can see things. We can hear things. Like, oh, now we just have little things that we can go, boop. Oh, hey, it's cold around you. Oh, she's holding on to you. That's so cute.
Exactly. Like, yeah, all this paranormal equipment is just it's so neat. It's so
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. One of the neat things about the farm is, like, I have this whole genealogy that talks about all the Cambry family, and so when we're interacting with the spirit out there, I can kind of say, okay, well, okay, it's a male. This is
Mm-hmm.
the age range, and so I can kind of go through and, like, flip through that genealogy and look and try to see that seance. They were getting like a male in his 30s who had died in a fire, and I was just kind of like, well, I'm
Ooh.
not really sure. Let me flip through, and then yeah, there was one of the sons was killed in a sawmill explosion, and
Oh.
yeah, and so
Damn.
yeah, we'll be like, oh, okay, so there we go, it's that one.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, we found it. And I mean, the awesome thing with that, because obviously, apart from the equipment that gets to go along with it, you having the full on genealogy is it's a rare thing to have today, just because you think about it in today's generations. I don't think any future generations are going to be really writing down like, here's the family tree. It was such a tradition back in
Right.
the day that has just
Yeah.
been lost. That kind of sucks because it's so cool for you to be able to have like, you have all of these things going together where you're like, okay, I have the equipment, the scientific equipment angle from it, and then you have the seance angle from it that's they're both able to confirm, and then you get the genealogy angle from it where you're like, all right, I can literally flip through a book and go, yeah, it was Tim. Oh, he had a bad death. This is when he died. This is how old he was. Like, it's so
it's the
amazing and
validation.
cool. Yes.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
validation.
And like a lot of the locations that you go to, they've had so many owners over the years. It's hard to like pinpoint who it might be. You don't have as detailed records as I do.
Yes.
You know, being owned by basically two families the entire time the structure was
Yeah.
here, you know, it kind of gives me that narrowed focus where I can kind
Yeah.
of give them a better idea. Not to say we don't have like some transient spirits
Oh,
that pop in and out. I mean, but like for the most part, I've got a pretty good idea who's going on over here and what might be happening. And we have a lot of fun with it. We really do.
now,
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
because you said that you let couples that you let couples stay the night.
Spend the night.
Do they ever like have any of them come to you the next day and been like, yo, we heard
Yeah.
some things?
Yes. I've had a few that have been like, oh, you know, I heard footsteps. I had a camping group out there. They had a bunch of people go outside camping in the yard, but they had a few people that had like a CPAP. And sorry.
No problem.
I figure it's people trying to call through for you.
Yes, people trying to call through. Anyway, so the CPAP, they're upstairs sleeping with the CPAP because they need electricity. And they come out the next morning and they tell the camping group like that house is haunted, did you know? And the camping people didn't tell anybody that this was going on. And they said, well, why do you say that? And they said, well, we heard footsteps all night. So they heard footsteps all night that were louder than the CPAP machine that kept them awake.
Holy.
I was just going to say that right there. Why are you so rudely stomping? Look, you're not even just gently walking and frolicking through the house. You were stomping at that point in time because those things
Are loud.
Loud. Exactly. So yeah, the guy with the CPAP's going, yeah, I heard footsteps all night long. And it's like, oh yeah, maybe Fritz didn't particularly like that CPAP. I don't know. He was probably trying to figure out what this machine is, you know?
Mhm. Have you ever considered doing like a bed and breakfast?
I've considered it. It's the layout of the house isn't really conducive to that.
Yeah.
So I've got one bathroom downstairs that's in the one bedroom that's downstairs. So
Okay.
I mean, that room would be okay, but then it locks up the only downstairs bathroom. The upstairs has a big open room for one bedroom. Like you walk up the stairs and there's the bed, like right there. And then it's got like a really dinky, tiny bathroom that's in an attic. And then you have Fritz's room. That's the only bedroom upstairs with the door is Fritz's room that nobody sleep in.
That seems about right.
Yeah. It's just not really laid out well for the whole bed and breakfast thing. And I don't cook. So that's kind of like it.
You're like,
Okay.
there's just bed. There's no breakfast.
Yeah, I'm not gonna force people to eat my cooking, so we're not gonna do that.
Airbnb?
I was just going to say, I would think Airbnb would be the way to go for that.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about doing that. I just with the whole Airbnb thing, you don't get a lot of control over guests, and like it's available to rent. I let wedding couples rent it. Other people have reached out to me and rented it, like the camping group and stuff like that. But Yeah, I don't have it listed on one of the listing sites just because I want a little bit of control.
Stem and roll, I get it.
A little bit of control over what I got going on, and the historic nature of the home. Like the home is pretty much original to the 1860s. This is the original layout. Even the windows are the original hand blown glass from the 1860s.
Oh,
Like
Damn.
the Cambry family never remodeled the house, and then my grandparents bought it with the intention of preserving it. So it's never been remodeled other than the additions of electricity and running water. And my grandparents added the running water in the 80s. So, I mean, it's like I said, I always tell people like it's not that kind of house.
and you're like, it's not going to be like, it's a niche market, which obviously, as I saw Dana with the unagi. She's like, we're going to go down there. We're going to rent it for a weekend. She's like, I'm staying there. And I hope you know this.
I need to spend the night in there.
It is really neat and it's really unique. That's for sure. It's definitely unique. It's definitely got a niche. I mean, like I said, it's gorgeous. That's why it makes a wonderful wedding venue, because it's this cute little house in a clearing out in the middle of nowhere. You go down some windy, twisty gravel roads and drive down my long lane, and then all of a sudden the clearing opens up and there's this cute little red house that sits in the middle.
I would say that sounds perfect. I'm down. I'm down for that road trip.
So, as a wedding venue, please tell me you get a lot of Halloween weddings.
I do.
Yes.
October is the month for weddings for me. Mainly, because it's the whole haunted wedding thing. But not only that, but that's when the trees are really changing colors, like for the fall weddings. And like I have huge forest that surrounds me, and so when the leaves change colors, it's just breathtaking out there. So October is one of my busiest months between ghosts and weddings and
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's one of those times where you're like, okay, Fritz, I need you to make sure you have the door open at these hours. These are when the people are coming. Please be good to them. Be a good host.
Yes. Go in
and if they spend the night, give them a show.
Got a wedding going on. Please make it a nice wedding for these people.
Keep the others in line. Nothing weird. Please. Thank you. Children behave.
Yes.
I would say that's always been my biggest issue. Like, children ghosts, for anyone who's watching this and listening. You said her name is Eglantine?
Mm-hmm.
Good. I get the feeling from her right away, like good, well behaved, doesn't cause mischief. Whereas the ones that lived in my house when I got the place caused me to get yelled at by my mother because she kept on yelling at me. She was getting home nursing care. She was sick at the time, and her nurse would get there. I would leave for work at about 5:30. He'd get there about 7:30. I would close the garage door, like I'd back out, I'd close the door, I'd go off to work. By first break, I'd be getting a text from her. Why did you leave the door open again? I'm like, I didn't leave the door open. It was closed. The garage door was closed. She's like, well, the nurse came here and said it was open again. She's like, you know how much expensive stuff we have out there? And the door's always unlocked. They could come get me. I'm like, I didn't leave it unlocked.
Exactly.
It's like, what are you talking about? And every freaking time that I went to work, because I worked weekends, so it would be 3 days a week, my mother would yell at me until I literally started, I'd leave, I'd send her a video of it closing, and then it'd be a picture of it closed. I'd send it off, and then I'd drive away. That was the only time when she finally believed me. She's like, it was open again today, though. I'm like, it's not for me. She's like, no, I saw the pictures in the video. I was like, see, told you, not me.
Like I said, Eglantine is, I mean, she's fairly well behaved, but I find toys a lot.
Yeah.
I find toys. Yeah, I find toys a lot that have been accidentally left behind. One time my daughter had a fidget spinner, and she'd been playing with that fidget spinner the whole time we were out there, and when we went to leave, gone. And so and of course she's like, what is my thing? I need it. And so like
you're like, I will get you a new one.
No, we're tossing the house. We're tossing the house, trying to find this thing. I mean, all over. looking. And finally, one of the last times I walked through the house looking for it, it's laying in the middle of the bed in Fritz's room. Right on top of the covers, middle of the bed, Fritz's room.
I mean, I smile so much listening to this because it's so nice to have somebody that, like, to hear somebody else that says, like, this shit is going on. My husband is a non-believer.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff started happening. So our daughter was, well, she turned 2. She was about a year and a half when we built the house. She turned 2 in this house. She was about 5. My son was an infant. And she'd be watching like Blue's Clues or something on TV. And the channel would just start changing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, what the change it back, go back into the kitchen, channel starts changing, and she's like, "Ah!" having a meltdown in the kitchen because Blue's Clues isn't on anymore.
That's a total meltdown situation right there, yes.
My husband comes home from work and I'm like, watch this. Turn the TV on, and I put it on the kids' channel. Not even a minute later, channel starts changing. He's like, oh, it's the neighbor opening their garage door. Oh, so you mean to tell me they sat in their driveway all day going, so that our TV's channel changed?
Yeah, they did that all day long. They just opened their garage door off and on all day long. Yeah,
that seems. I find it funny that that's the logical answer for that.
Right.
It's like, oh,
blame the neighbors.
Clearly, it's the neighbors sitting outside and just.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, and like thinking back to my grandparents, like I said, it was the 80s. People didn't believe in ghosts at that point. I mean, not to the extent they do today. And, you know, all the stuff that happened that, you know,
they blamed everybody else. They had an explanation for it.
Oh, the grandkids must have opened that door. And, you know, it's just, I think that there were probably more stories of stuff that happened that they just chalked off. You know, that happened, you know.
Yep.
I have a good one for you. My dad passed away almost 6 years ago. About 3 months after he passed away now, my husband is a coffee roaster. He roasts his own coffee, buys green beans, roasts them out on the back deck. We always have fresh coffee. My dad hated fresh coffee. He was a Maxwell House guy. He liked that freeze-dried stuff in the jar. After he passed away, and we always had a little bottle of freeze-dried coffee on the counter. After he passed away, I tossed it. Thursday night, garbage went out to the road. Sunday morning, I get up and I'm going to make a pot of coffee, and there's a jar of Maxwell House sitting in front of my coffee maker. Where'd that come from? At this time, my mom had moved in with us. I say to my husband, I'm like, did you buy Maxwell House when you went grocery shopping? He's like, no. How'd that get there? He goes, oh, you must have put it there. Yes, because I sleepwalk and grocery shop at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that just randomly showed up.
Yeah, I literally turned around in the kitchen and I looked down the hall to the bedrooms and I'm like, okay, Dad, the coffee stays. and I left it on the counter for a good 4 years.
Yeah.
Before it was gone one day.
Yeah, sometimes it's just better just to kind of roll with it, you know. That's the whole whole Fritz situation. Sometimes it's better to just kind of let him roll with his thing, and yep.
Well, you're never gonna. Let's be honest. We're never gonna win a fight against a dead person, because guess what? They have a lot more time. We're just sitting there getting older, going, "Oh, it's not worth it." Just do it. Just do whatever you want, Fritz. It's fine. Do you want it to be folded that way? Fold it that way. I'm not arguing with you anymore.
Your investigators, did they ever do EVPs?
Yeah, we've had some EVPs. Usually, like the EVPs revolve around apples and the apple orchard. we get stuff a lot of times. You'll hear something, but it won't be picked up on the audio, which is frustrating. I always tell people my ghosts are kind of smart.
Yeah.
You know when that's recording. Like, I had one team, they really wanted to catch that attic door opening. And so like the whole time they'd had the video recorder on the attic door and they were trying to catch that attic door. And so into the investigation, they take everything down and they had the equipment bag on the bed upstairs. And she said literally she closed the equipment bag, turned around, picked it up, and watched the attic door open.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and this is exactly why, so long as they're not a nasty ghost that hasn't actually crossed over and come back, then I'm just like, okay. When they're ones like that, I have literally stood in my hallway where I'm been like, would you please stop touching the doors? And you just hear silence for a minute, and you're like, and then you hear that click, and you're like, son of a bitch.
But Rebecca, you saying that totally makes sense because, like I said, my husband is a hardcore non-believer. So he doesn't, he always has an explanation for the weird things that happen in our house. Always. And
yeah,
I never saw nothing. And I'll be sitting in the living room, the only person home. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody in my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell my husband, whoever's haunting our house was in the kitchen again today. You imagined that. Like, if I had the imagination that he thought I had, I would be very wealthy because I'd be writing books and movies.
Right. And I have wedding groups that are like, I don't want to have anything happen. Is a ghost going to bother me while I'm here? And I'm like, you know what? If you are here with a large group of people and you're not looking for that sort of thing, you probably won't even notice anything happening. It's, how many times did stuff happen while we were there with a big crowd of people and we just assumed that the kid opened the door? I mean, it's if you're there not looking for it, then you might miss it and you'll probably just chalk it off to being something else. It's when you're there, like actually looking and paying attention when you start noticing stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's when you're in a smaller group, and specifically when you all know that things happen, then it makes it easy to, like, if it's only two of you, it makes it really easy to go, hey, did you open the attic door? No, you? No. Oh,
right.
it,
Yeah,
please.
exactly. You're the only person in the house and you hear footsteps walk across the room upstairs. Like then you're like, oh, I think there's nobody else here. That must be, and that's not me.
Yeah, when you're standing stock still and you're like, well, I'm not hearing me walk.
Right. Yes, exactly. But when you've got a house full of people, if there's footsteps,
you don't.
Yeah, I know so and so is upstairs, and so it must be them. Or they, they're like, oh, I know so and so is downstairs. It must be them.
Well, I mean, even you think about it, for a lot of people, whether they like to admit it or not, I've heard it from several of my friends where they're like, oh, well, one of the reasons they joke about it, they're like, haha, one of the reasons I have an animal is so that way if there's a sound in the house, I'm just like, oh, it's just whatever, Floofy playing with something. And you're like, yeah, that's all good and well until you look down at your foot and you're like, oh, Floofy's here. It's Floofy.
The dog's sleeping beside you on the couch.
Yes. Our minds will automatically go to plausible deniability. Like, oh, it must be the dog. Okay, the dog may be laying here, but I'm sure it had to have been the dog. Yeah. If you're skeptical, you will write it off to anything.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things.
Yeah, I think if you have a completely open mind,
yes,
and you can not rationalize why it's happening, but you can accept why it's happening, I think spirits are more apt to go to somebody like that than they are my husband, which is probably why he still doesn't believe, because they know he won't ever believe.
Well, in a lot of cases, it's one of the things that, and again, I know at some point in time, witches are going to watch this and they're going to be upset with me because I always say this: there's nothing special about witches. There's not. Every single person in the world has the capability to be a witch. It's the fact that as we're growing up when you're kids, you see imaginary friends, which adults just go, oh, yeah, that's just their imaginary friend. And you're like, no, it's their dead friend. It's not imaginary. It's a little child that they're playing with that used to live here that died. They're like,
Right.
no, they're just kids.
When we were kids out at the farm playing, there was always a kid out there to play with. Always. We always had friends out there to play with. Every time we were there, there was always a kid to play with. Now.
And you think about it, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Where are them kids coming from?
As an adult, you question that and you're like, you know, I probably should have found it a little weird.
Cornfield.
Right. Now I'm wondering, like, really? Was there really always a kid out there? Or did, I mean, I know sometimes, like, my mom had friends and stuff out there, and my grandma had friends and stuff out there, and I'm sure there were legit kids out there. But now, kind of looking back, I wonder if some of those times where I was playing with a girl on the swing, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it could even explain for Eglantine there why she was so attached to you. She literally would have seen you grow up and played with you, so she would have an affinity towards you of why she'd be extra comfortable going like, you used to be so small. What happened? Like, now I have to look up to you. What the hell? Yeah, you used to fit on the playground.
Yeah. My ghosts know me because I basically grew up out there, and so it's kind of one of those interesting things to think back on,
Yes, definitely. But yeah,
Dana's already planning the road trip. She's like,
I am. I'm like,
we're gonna bring some temperature readers. Hey, we're gonna do it.
My camera.
She's like, I'm done with all of the episodes for the summer. She's like, I know when we're going. She's like, I know when I'm gonna book this.
I am in love with the paranormal. And it's not like paranormal watching horror movies. I love to see people that believe share their stories, which again, when you replied to the Facebook post and Taylor sends me a message like, book this lady now. I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about?
But she's going to be reaching out to you, accept her.
So as soon as I went to the post and I saw Haunted Wedding, I'm like, yes. Yes, I need to have a conversation with this lady.
Awesome.
So before we wrap up, do you have any what are those things called? We're on them. Social media platforms. Like, do you use Instagram, anything like that? So tell us about it, and then we'll also get her to send us a message in this chat that so we can actually tag you in all of it across all of ours.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Cambry House everywhere. So it's CAMBRE. Cambry House on Instagram, Cambry House on Facebook. My website is cambryhouse.com. And I have TikTok. Not that I use TikTok super often, but I did catch a really nice video of the door opening and closing with the attic. So yeah.
You're like, yeah.
So as I'm going to follow.
At this point, if you type Cambry and Illinois into a search engine, I should pop up somewhere. And that's how you find me.
CAMBRE.
Yes.
Look at that. You're like the third person on Google.
Dana's like on this already. She's like, all right, I just need to know all the contact information.
Okay. Wow, is that ever beautiful?
Thank you.
The photos. That is a cute little house.
It is. It is a cute little house.
So cute, Taylor.
Yeah, I always tell people like it's haunted, but it's not like, it's more Casper haunted.
Yes. And that, just for any of our listeners, there is a difference between hauntings. Like, some spirits are not good, and then other ones are actually the good ones, where they're like, yeah, I left, I came back, I decided that I was like, I like it here, this is where I want to stay. In Fritz's case, he's like, I'm making sure my home is taken care of.
Exactly. I think Fritz is going to be around until that house falls down.
And then he's going to be mad about it.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming onto the show.
Yes.
We will definitely share all your socials and your website. And goodness, I cannot wait to look at that TikTok video.
Check it out. I pinned that one. But yeah, it was fun talking to you guys. Thanks for having me.
It was
Thank
amazing.
you very much, Rebecca.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Yes, you too.